Dear ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today I would like to tell you about the illegal war Vladimir Putin is waging against Ukraine, against our country, against our people. Actually, 4 years of this illegal war of Russian aggression. Both, it includes the occupation of Crimea and the invasion of Donbass, eastern Ukraine. Today I want to focus on how Russia killed not only innocent Ukrainians, but 298 innocent people, including 80 children, in Malaysian jetliner MH17. It happened 17th July 2014 in Ukrainian airborne. And Ukraine, actually first time ever seen by our eyes at our soil, in our airborne, such a notorious terrorist act where so many people died. And the Buk missile system brought from Russia illegally to Ukraine, to the territory under the control of Russian troops, occupied by Russian troops in eastern Ukraine, was used against innocent people. On Thursday, July 17, 2014, I immediately received all the information, specifics regarding the plane, the air corridor it was using, and location of the crash. We quickly tapped the conversations of those terrorists. That night, I received also the information about the futile attempts from the very beginning of Russian general staff to disguise their crime. It took us less than 24 hours to solve the crime. Committed, again, let me reiterate, committed by Russian military on duty, by Russian perpetrators, downed the Malaysian airline jetliner MH17 over the territory of Donetsk Oblast, Donetsk region, Ukraine. Controlled, again, I'd like to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, controlled by Russian troops and Russian-backed terrorists. Malaysia Airline flight MH17 was hit by Russian troops and it was hit by actually missile system, Buk M1, and while it was en route from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur, killing, again, for us to know, killing 298 people aboard, most of them Dutch nationals. Immediately after the tragedy, our investigators established the fact that Russian military authorities has given command for a Buk system to be transported into Ukraine, illegally transported into Ukraine. It also established that the Russian GRU contractor, Igor Girkin, Russian national, and Ukrainian national, Igor Plotnitsky, were involved in the crime. I immediately authorized to start sharing of all of the evidence we have collected with the public and with the international community, so that the world would be aware of Russian act of international terrorism. I immediately confirmed to the public that it was a Russian military crew, that Russian on-duty military officers who came illegally from Russia crossed illegally Ukrainian-Russian border and then moved to Pervomayskaya village in Donetsk Oblast with Buk M1 missile system. Collected evidence gave ground for the conclusion that Buk M1 missile system that hit the MH17 before crossing the Ukrainian border was in possession of the 53rd Air Defense Missile Brigade of Russia, of the Armed Force of Russian Federation, deployed close to Kursk, Russia. From the very beginning of the investigation, we managed to name possible place of firing. Later, the international investigators like Bellingcat, I know that you are here, thank you very much, our appreciation, you confirmed our conclusion. From the very first day after the tragedy, I insisted that an international investigation team be created. I recommended that the Netherlands was the most fit partner to do the expert identification analysis of the airplane's debris and the identification of the bodies of the victims. My judgment was later justified as the Netherlands was quick in concluding examinations that were professional and effective. The joint investigation team was set up comprising of experts from Australia, Belgium, Malaysia, the Netherlands, and Ukraine. Like I said, right after the crash, I demanded today, Ukraine must conduct an open trial into this terrorist act, involving all countries and victims' families. This approach would make it possible to prove in Ukrainian court, with international support, the guilt of the actual perpetrators of the crime, servicemen of Russian Federation armed forces. Ukraine must now prove in court the Russian government intentionally impeded the investigation into this act of terrorism. I authorized from the very beginning to share the evidence with what actually SBU collected with the joint investigation team. It's important for us to commence a public trial. The international community and Ukraine, including Ukraine, must try the criminals, perpetrators responsible for this crime. It is vital for us, for Ukraine, to name the perpetrators in Ukrainian court, to bring those responsible to justice. In conclusion, I believe that to prevent future acts of terrorism of Russia in our country, in Ukraine, in Europe, in Great Britain, in the United States, in Australia, in Malaysia, in each and every country, it's high time for Ukraine to join NATO, to become a member of NATO alliance, to be at the forefront fighting against Russian aggression, against terrorism of Putin, but at the same time to stand with the international community, to stand for our common democratic values, to protect our lands, to protect our citizens. Thank you for your attention. Дякую вам.